Hi, my name is Dan Rosenberger, Manufacturer's Representative with Echo Incorporated. Welcome to the video series on how to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. Today we're going to cover all the safety considerations you'll need while using your gas chainsaw. First, we're going to talk about personal protective equipment that you'll be wearing while using your saw. We're also going to talk about some of the safety features that you'll find on your chainsaw. Next, we'll talk about the proper starting techniques with your gas chainsaw, from cold starting techniques to warm starting techniques. Next, we'll talk about the proper techniques that you'll need to know while using your gas chainsaw. We're going to talk about properly clearing your work area of any debris. We'll talk about the proper stance used while using your chainsaw, and then proper techniques to use all the way through the cut. And finally, we're going to talk about routine maintenance and long-term storage. Keeping your bar and chain clear of any debris. Make sure that you have a clean air filter, that you have a clean fuel filter, and that you've taken all the gasoline out of your chainsaw before you put it up for the winter. There's many chainsaws on the market. You want to make sure and buy the right chainsaw for the right application and experience level. There's very little that you need to get started. You'll need a gas fuel mixture, you'll need bar and chain lube, and you'll need personal protective equipment, including chaps, gloves, eye protection, and hearing protection. Make sure that you consult your operator's manual and your safety manual before you start your job. Now let me tell you a little bit about Echo Incorporated. We've been around for more than 30 years selling product to discerned homeowners all the way up to the professional arborist. We offer a wide range of products, including hedge trimmers, chainsaws, trimmers, and blowers. So now let's get started. Our first segment is going to be about safety considerations. Hi, I'm Dan with Echo Incorporated. Today we're going to talk about how to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. The first thing you want to do is figure out what application you have when deciding what chainsaw to buy. Here we have a top handle chainsaw, normally bought by a homeowner to do a small job. This particular unit has a 14-inch bar and chain on it, an inertia chain brake, purge valve for easy cold starting, and then rubber grommets that separates the handle from the engine. It's normally used in smaller applications and limbing, commercial application when arborists are climbing the trees doing limbing up in the air. Next, we have a mid-range saw. A little bit bigger cubic inch, a little bit bigger cc range, which in turn will allow you to run a little bit longer bar and chain. This particular saw will go from a 16 up to an 18-inch bar and chain. This is normally purchased by the homeowner, farmer, or rancher that needs to do some light clearing or some light firewood around the house. Then we move up into more of a professional style. Bigger cubic inch saw, bigger cc saw. This is going to allow you to run a much bigger bar and chain. This particular unit will run from a 16-inch bar all the way up to a 27-inch bar. Generally, this is purchased by someone who's burning firewood for a primary heat source, farmer, rancher, someone who can use a saw 4 or 5 days of the week. This is also bought by professionals who make their living using the chainsaw every day. So now that you've decided which chainsaw to buy for your application, let's talk about some of the safety features you'll find on your chainsaw. First is the inertia chain brake. The way it's designed is it has a ring around the clutch. When it feels pressure on the tip of the saw or on the brake, the ring will collapse around the clutch, stopping the chain immediately. This is activated by the brake. You move it forward and it puts the brake on. You pull back and it releases the brake. So that's the first feature. The second feature is the body of the saw is separated from the handle. So all that vibration that's caused by the engine is actually getting pulled into these rubber grommets, which in turn reduces the amount of fatigue on your hand. So you always have control of the chainsaw. Third thing is your side chain tensioner. You always want to have the right tension on the bar and chain so your chain's not slipping off the bar. So if you pull the chain up just so you see the bottom of the teeth on top of the bar, that's the perfect tension. The fourth thing is the chain catch. This is a removable piece of aluminum or plastic that will actually catch the chain if it happens to come off of its rails. So if your chain got loose and it came off of the bar, the chain catch would catch it and then throw it directly down on the ground. You want to wear a pair of leather shoes, preferably steel-toed, in your application. Next, you want your chaps. These have polyester strands in them that are going to stop the chain immediately if it makes contact with your legs. You want to wear long sleeve shirts that is tight fitting. It doesn't get in contact with the bar and chain. Next thing you want to do is wear hearing protection that buffers your ears from the loud decibels of the chainsaw. You have eye protection from the material coming up from the bar and chain. You have a helmet on for any material that you're moving sideways or branches falling from the tree while you're cutting wood. So next we have gloves. They're going to give you a firm grip on the chainsaw and save your hands while you're transporting material. So now let me show you how to start your chainsaw. Hi, I'm Dan with Echo Incorporated, and welcome to the video series on how to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. Today we're going to talk about how to mix your two-stroke oil and how to add bar and chain oil and fuel to your gas chainsaw. So first let's mix our gas and oil mixture. This particular gas can is a 2-gallon gas can. We want to fill it halfway with fuel and then add 2.6 two-stroke oil containers. So one 2.6 container will mix 1 gallon of fuel, so in this case we're going to need 2 of these. So let's add our two-stroke mixture. So by adding 2 bottles and 2 gallons of fuel, we're going to make a 50-to-1 mix. Now this can is halfway full. We've got 2 bottles of oil in it. Now we're going to fill the rest of the gas can up with 89 octane gas, shake it up, and we're ready to go. So now that we've added another gallon of fuel, shaken it up, we're ready to add the fuel and the bar and chain oil. So in this particular model, there's the gas reservoir and the oil reservoir. Both are notated by insignias either on the cap or on the saw itself. This has the fuel tank, this has the oil on the chain. So next let's fuel up our chainsaw. First let's put the two-stroke gas mixture in. Always remember not to overfill your gas tank. You never want to have a spill. Hand tighten the cap, never over tighten. Next we're going to move on to our bar and chain lube. So we'll put our cap back on. Remember not to over-tighten your cap. So now it's time to go outside where I'm going to properly show you how to do a cold start and a warm start. So now that we have our chainsaw filled up with fuel and full of bar and chain oil, let's talk about safe starting position. Many people are known to what we call drop starting a saw. It's when you use the weight of the saw pulled away from you to actually start the saw. It's a very dangerous situation when the throttle may be stuck wide open, or depending on where the piston is, the saw could violently jerk downward. So not the approved way to start a chainsaw. The approved way to start a chainsaw is on the ground, firmly with no obstructions around the chainsaw. You want to have the chain brake on, and for a cold start, you want to make sure that your toggle switch is in the on position, your choke is pulled out, and you've pressed the purge valve 4 to 5 times to prime the engine. So I'm going to put my hearing protection on, my glasses on, and now I'm ready to start the chainsaw. I'm going to push the choke back in. Now I'm ready to start it. That was the cold starting procedure. Now let's talk about warm starting procedure. If your chainsaw has been running all day, there's no need to use the choke. So the same position still applies for your warm starts. You always want to make sure that your chain brake is on, you're in the on switch, firmly on the ground with your foot in the rear handle, and you're ready to start your chainsaw. So next, let's talk about correct operating procedures. Hi, I'm Dan with Echo Incorporated with a video series on how to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. So today we're outside and I'm going to show you the proper techniques in using your chainsaw. But before we do that, there's a couple things we need to do. First, we need to clean our area of any debris or logs that the log may fall on when we're doing our cutting. So we'll need to remove any obstructions on the log that we're going to cut and then clear away just the general debris around our cutting site. So I've got my safety apparel on, my chaps, my gloves, my helmet with my hearing protection and eye protection. I'm going to start my chainsaw up, clear my area, and then we're ready to cut our firewood. Well, now that we have our area cleared and we're ready to cut, let's talk a little bit about your stance and position that you'll need to know while making your cut. First of all, we want to make sure that no one's around our working site. Children, pets, everybody's away. It's safely clear away from our work spot. Next thing we want to look at is our chainsaw. Do we have the right chainsaw for the right application? Depending on what size firewood you want to cut, it will depend on what size stove that you have. So anywhere between 14 and 18 inches is a typical wood stove. So our stance is going to be an athletic stance with your left foot a little bit forward than your right. Your chainsaw, your left hand is going to be on your front handle, easily accessible to activate the brake. Your right hand will be on the rear handle, which controls your throttle. So before you start your cut, you want to throttle up the chainsaw, place it lightly on the wood, and have solid pressure all the way through the cut. Once you're done with the cut, you want to activate the brake again and place your saw firmly on the ground. So now that we've talked about proper techniques to use your chainsaw, let's get started. So I'm going to activate my chain brake, put it firmly on the ground. I want to make sure and have my hearing protection on, my safety glasses, helmet, and shield. Now let's start our chainsaw. Rear foot in the rear handle, left hand on the front handle, and we're going to pull straight up. And the chainsaw should fire on the first or second pull. Now that we've finished our cut and I removed the log away from our cutting area, next we're going to talk about long-term maintenance and storage of your gas chainsaw. Hi, I'm Dan with Echo Incorporated, and welcome to the video series on how to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. Today we're going to talk about your maintenance and long-term storage of your gas chainsaw. Before we get started on that, I want to mention that you always want to consult your owner's manual and the safety manual provided with your chainsaw at purchase. So maintaining your chainsaw, you always want to make sure that you have fresh fuel in your chainsaw. 30 days is about the limit for holding an octane level on any gasoline. So after every time that you use your chainsaw and you're putting it up for storage, you want to drain the fuel. You want to inspect your air filter to make sure it's clean and no holes. You never want to blow compressed air directly onto your filter because it may blow a hole in it. One easy way to clean your filter is simply tap it on the tool bench. So let's replace our air filter. Put the cover back on. Make sure our brake is in the locked position, which will allow the chain to stay stable. And put our scabbard on for long-term storage. Now you're ready to put your chainsaw up, and it's ready to go next time you need to cut wood. So you've properly stored your chainsaw. Now you're ready to get it back out again and tackle another tough job. So let's take our scabbard off, check our chain brake, make sure that your chain flows freely and is at the right tension. You want to have just enough tension to where you see the bottom of the chain at the top of the bar. So our chain is at the right tension, it's moving freely. You want to make sure that your bar nuts are tightened up and that your brake is activated. So now let's move on to the filter. Before you get started, you want to make sure your filter is free from any debris. To clean it, simply tap it on the workbench. And remember, never blow compressed air onto your filter directly. So our filter is clean and ready to go. So now that we have the air filter on and tightened up, let's take a look at the spark plug. You want to make sure that the spark plug is free of any debris and it's not fouled, so we can replace it back to the saw. Consult your owner's manual for torque specifications when replacing or putting your spark plug back in. You want to check your fuel line to make sure that there's no cracking or aging on that, because that may need replaced. You want to make sure that there's no debris around your air intake and that your starter rope is free of any fraying. When buying your spark plug and air filters, make sure you consult your owner's manual to make sure you buy the right spark plug and air filter for your gas chainsaw. You can buy these parts individually, or you can buy kits that contain all the major components for air, spark, and fuel. So now we've talked about some of the maintenance items that you'll need to take care of your gas chainsaw. Now another big part is keeping a sharp chain. There are kits available with round files, flat files, the file holder, and the bar guide, available at many major retailers. So you could use this kit to keep a sharp chain all the way through the season. So hopefully you learned tips and techniques to use and maintain your gas chainsaw. Now it's time to go outside and tackle your own project.